What's up, everybody? Episode 6 of P.H.D. What's Next? I have my lovely, beautiful girlfriend sitting with me, Melanie. And yeah, I'm just happy to see you guys all and happy you're tuning in. And yeah, so Melanie, I think it's so cool that I'm in a relationship where we can do things like this and collaborate and just communicate and get just to get to know one another on a deeper level, because it is different when you're videotaping a conversation and the different things that come up. And I just always admire you because you have so many talents and you're very driven in what you want to do. And I think that I think a lot of people will be inspired by the dedication and the work you put in being a mother and being a wife for a long time and different trials and things you've overcome, and how your life, it doesn't matter how old you are, right? Like your life can change at any time and drastically, for better or worse, really. But so you tell us about yourself.
I don't know. So, sorry, I'm nervous. So I'm just starting. My big thing going on now is I started school again. I went back to get my P.H.D. I just finished my master's degree last December, which was like right before we started seeing each other. And right after that, I got a job that I wasn't expecting, and that kind of took me in a different direction, which has been awesome. But I definitely still wanted to pursue what I was studying with my master's degree, and why I kind of went into that. And
what are you studying?
So my master's degree was in psychology of life coaching, and it was focused on motivation, internal, external, and how to draw it out of people and how to help people identify their own motivation. And then, to utilize that to help them create a better life for themselves and to pursue their goals and do all the things. And so my P.H.D. is psychology of human performance. So it's kind of taking it to the next step. So, there's people that with the podcast and successful business and all the Elon Musks of the world that just seem to just make magic with everything they touch. So where's the gap between those people, the super achievers, and everyone else? And how do we bridge that gap? And what tools we can use and what psychology has to offer? Because obviously there's a lot of different ways to do that and a lot of different paths, and psychology is the one I particularly enjoy to study and just to understand kind of how the human mind works and how our life experiences kind of add on to themselves to create our mindsets, and then how to change that, because obviously you can have a certain mindset for most of your life and then just switch it up, and how we kind of make those jumps. It's incredibly interesting to me. So I enjoy it. It's one of those things like I plan to do something with it, but even if I didn't, I'm really enjoying learning it. And that's, I don't know, that's big for me because I like to learn things.
How do you go about identifying that gap in your own life?
For me, it's been a lot of really looking at what's holding me back. A lot of it goes to fears, and a lot of it goes to not believing I could do something or that I should do something, and finding ways to shift that mindset into like, why the hell not? And of course I can do it. And I know it's kind of, I don't know, I think it's kind of silly, but like a few months ago, I don't even remember what I was trying to do, but I was struggling with something, and I just had this thought like I have twins. Like I carried twins and gave birth to twins and raised twins. Like I grew two human beings. So everything else should be easy. Like that seems impossible, and I did it. So I don't know why I struggle with anything else. And just that little shift in mindset, which just kind of popped in my head one day when I was struggling with something like that. I go back to that thought a lot. Like when I'm struggling and I want to give up on something, I'm just like, this is so stupid. I grew two humans. Like obviously I can do this.
Growing humans is a crazy thing and beautiful. The woman's body is a beautiful mechanism. Instrument, I don't know what you call it, but yes.
It's one of the things I told myself in the ice bath.
Oh, there you go.
Like when I wanted to jump out of the ice bath and I stayed in, and then the one day I stayed in really long, like I kept telling myself, like, this is stupid. Of course I can do this. So it's just finding that, and it's different for everyone. So it's like finding that thing in your head that you can shift your mindset.
Mindset is everything.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like sitting down, like for me, sitting down and like it's sometimes hard to even identify what my mindset is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like taking that quiet time or writing, or there's different ways to get to that conclusion, I think. But yeah, it's very important to see how my framework or my belief system or my mindset on like achieving things, or how I even view a subject, or there's so many different variants in that you could pick apart. And like, it's interesting. I was just talking to someone the other day about like, I notice like if I do something, if I like tell a little lie, or I'm doing something shady or something, then I automatically am looking for that in other people, right? We were talking about how the person has like kind of trouble in social settings to bust out of their shell, and like their guard always up. And I basically asked them like, well, what are you doing? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's super interesting. And that was like, it's sometimes it's really hard for me to make those connections. Like it took me a long time to realize like, oh, once I stop doing this shit, I don't see other people doing it as much. And that's just like really identifying like how I think about things and what I'm actually doing in my day-to-day life. It like compounds, and I believe the universe will show it to me in the outside ways of, you know, things I view. The ice baths, yes. So Melanie, this morning, and I just love you so much because like, so what you usually go into psychology of life coaching, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how to and like obviously being in a relationship, you learn about each other and you see the little nuances and things and how receptive someone is. And you are very good at getting my defenses down and encouraging me to do things that you know I need to do, but I necessarily don't want to, or I still have a lot of blocks and ways. And I just really appreciate that. Like we woke up this morning and she encouraged me to do yoga together, right? And then we each did an ice bath.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just really, I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you.
For sure. Yeah.
There's a lot of like looking at like, especially with like you were saying how when you, when you're doing something you see it in other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of that too with the more underlying mindsets. Like it's harder to see like when it's heavy or negative opposed to positive, I think. Because it's like because you want to say nothing holds you back, but really things hold you back. So I think it's harder to see than on the other side, if things are feeling great, not like we don't question why do I feel great, but we question on the other side. And I was thinking, I listened to you have a conversation with someone about starting their own business or getting a job or whatever it was, and everything that you brought up, they had a reason why it wouldn't work. Yet they started the conversation with, well, they'll do whatever, or they'll do anything, you know, and it's just identifying that, like, why you're making those excuses. Like the excuse doesn't matter. It's why. And it's, do you not think you're capable? Do you not think you're good enough? Do you not think you deserve it? And I think that's a big one for a lot of people is you don't want to say, oh, I don't deserve to be happy, but you're doing all these things showing that you don't think you deserve to be happy. And it takes a lot to break through that.
Yeah. Yeah. Even becoming conscious of it, you know? Yeah. My favorite line is like, oh, I like to make excuses too. Yes. You know, I was talking shit, but getting people to realize that's what they're doing. Right? Because I know, yeah, like humans are limitless, I believe, you know, and the only thing that holds us back is our mindset or our belief system behind if we can achieve it or not. And really, it's all an excuse. If I really want something, I can go get it. Like you said, the Elon Musks of the world, like there are people who just have a thought and are able to, you know, take action and manifest that thought pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
In comparison to like, I used to like, I consistently go to the gym now, but this was a thought that I wanted to do for about 4 years before I ever put it into practice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and my thought to manifestation time used to be extremely long. You know, and that was my like fear of success, fear of failure, like all that probably wrapped up in one. You know, but yeah, it's like as I grow spiritually, that gap gets shorter and shorter. You know, and it's just I'm just learning to love myself and nurture myself like I would my children. You know, to give myself encouragement and love throughout the way, like throughout my journey to get to the end, whatever.
So. And I think it's reflected too in the types of goals we set. Like you said, we're limitless and we can accomplish anything with it. I absolutely believe, but it's almost like we're also kind of raised and schooled through everything, you know, set realistic goals and set, you know, like we're trained to limit ourselves in that way. Like you don't want an unrealistic goal because you're setting yourself up for failure. Well, no, the fact that you think you'll fail is just setting you up for failure. I read this book, Your Next 5 Moves, and the author, I know his first name was Patrick, and it stuck out in my head because that's your name, but I can't remember his last name. But he talks about you should only set impossible goals. Because if it's realistic, then it's too easy and you're selling yourself short. You should set goals that when you first say it out loud is like, that's impossible, is your immediate reaction, and then figure out how to do it.
Yeah, it opens up the way for possibilities. Yeah, like I can see that with my children. And there's a perfect example that I like to give. I was hanging out with this young man and we were spray painting stuff. And he couldn't get the cap off the spray paint. And this was a huge realization for me. And he just like, he kept trying and couldn't do it. And he's like, oh, I guess it can't be done. And I'm like, yeah, with that attitude, it can't. And he picked it back up and popped it right off. And I was like, oh my God, like I've been limiting myself just by telling myself like it can't be done. And it like obvious sounds so obvious saying it, but it's like, that's all it is. And it's like that how do I catch my thoughts, you know?
Well, and it's different things, like you saying that to him might be the voice that goes over in his head next time.
Yes.
Like there was a time, I was pregnant with Naomi, so 18 years ago. I was trying to do something. I was outside our house and I was trying to do something, and I just I had to spray paint. I was spray painting furniture, but I kept messing something up and it kept clogging and I couldn't get it. And I was frustrated and went in and got my husband, and he came out and it was just like super easy. And then I got upset, and then he was frustrated. It was one of those things. And as he walked away, he said, the problem is you give up too effing easy, and walked into the house. And honestly, like him saying that, like in his voice, has rung in my head dozens of times since then. Even just a couple years ago, I'm not great in driving in the winter, and I got stuck in the snow, like really stuck. Like I was in my neighbor's yard. I went off my driveway, and I was immediately panicking. Like, I don't know who I'm going to call for help. I can't get the van out, blah, blah, blah. And literally I could hear his voice. Like, the problem is you give up too effing easy. And it took me a little bit, but I got the van out by myself. But it's just those things, like him saying that, or me telling myself I grew humans. Like, it's those little, you need to talk about planting seeds. It's those little seeds that if you can hang on to that thought and keep bringing it back, then that becomes part of your motivation.
And I would argue that, like, yeah, everything that's been said to us is a seed. It's like, which ones do we cultivate? You know, because all that even negative self-talk, you know, I don't think comes naturally. It's, I'm sure there might be some things that with automatic fear response of certain things that come, like we stay away from certain things. But yeah, it's like I used to just water the seeds of doubt rather than the seeds of encouragement, you know. And I definitely can relate to that because, yeah, one of my first jobs I worked for a construction company. And it's so crazy when you get around people who expect you to just know things that you don't, almost like expect way more out of you than you think you can do yourself. And that actually like helped me to accomplish the things. I didn't even think I could do it, but just the like, of course you could do, like, why not attitude that someone would give. Like, it really gave me confidence to do that. I have to put my computer in. I thought I did that.
Oh, I didn't turn the thing on.
Cool. Yeah. So what made, so I think for me, because like even my sisters will say, like, they asked me what I wanted to be when I was little, and I said a psychologist. You know, and it's super, like, just people watching and seeing how certain people just have certain behaviors and like how they interact with other people. It's super fascinating, both of us, I know.
Yeah.
But where do you think that stems from?
That interest?
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, for me, I guess, like, I was, even when I was young, like, I was always in this observer role. Like, I always loved watching people, and I'd always, like, not just listen to conversations, but watch people while they were conversing. And I wanted to understand people. And then the older I got, like, a lot of things happened in my life, and that affected how I saw things. And I just wanted to understand why people were the way they were. One of the first kind of things that started that for me, when I was 16, a close friend of mine committed suicide. And it was very shocking. I mean, we were like all together hanging out the weekend before. Like, it was just, it felt like it came out of nowhere, and I didn't understand it. And not that I do now. It's not something I can understand because it was personal to her. But it kind of sparked that, like, I want to understand people, you know. And then when I got my undergraduate degree, I was just bouncing all over the place with what I wanted to study because everything was so interesting. Like, I took psychology classes, and I took women's studies and sociology, and I would just, and history. I love history. So I kept taking more and more classes. So then it got to the point, like, I've been here for 4 years and I'd like to graduate. So I had enough to graduate with a degree in sociology, but I had minors in everything else: political science and history and psychology and women's studies. And I kind of settled with sociology at the time because, so the difference, the very elementary difference between sociology and psychology is psychology goes within. Why are we like this? And it looks at the internal and your life experience and how you reacted to it. And it brings in positive, negative, trauma, all the stuff. Where sociology looks at the cultural structure around you and how we're influenced by the culture we grow up in. But it's big and small. So it's the culture of your family, how that influenced you, the culture of your community, your race, your what region of the world you grew up in, everything. And I kind of gravitated more towards that when I was younger, because that made more sense to me. But then as I got older, I also felt it also kind of takes some of the responsibility off of us, where psychology is more focused on us. Like, yes, because you can't control those things. Like, I can't control the family I grew up in, or the community I grew up in, or the race, or my gender. I can't control those things. So when you look at sociology and how I'm trained to think as a white female in Ohio, it's easy for me to be like, oh, well, like, this is the way, you know, this is how I was cultured to be, so it takes that responsibility off of me. Where I feel like psychology, it really puts all of the responsibility on me. Like, yes, I had all these experiences and I choose what I can do with it. And understanding it, I think, is a huge key. Like, understanding, that's a big thing with ACA. You know, obviously that's where we first met.
What is ACA?
Adult Children of Alcoholic and Dysfunctional Families. And it's a support group for people who grew up in alcoholic homes or dysfunctional homes.
I would call it a 12-step program, not a support group.
Oh, 12-step program.
But it could be both.
It's a little both. So with that, like, a lot of, over the years, I've seen a lot of people come and go from ACA. And a lot of times there's this, oh, well, you're just sitting around and complaining about your parents mindset. But the point is, if you're sitting there just complaining about your parents, then you're not working the program. You're not doing what you're supposed to do. Like, we have to recognize the experiences we had that influenced us, in order to change that influence, if that's what we want to do. Like maybe we identify all this and we're like, cool, I'm good with who I am. And I'm satisfied with this job and this life and I don't want more. And that's okay.
Right.
But recognizing it, you can make that choice. If you never recognize it, if you never acknowledge things that happened, then you don't have a choice because you're not giving yourself that free will. We are bound by the thing, I believe, we are bound by the things we don't understand about ourselves.
Yeah, I would agree to that. That's why I feel like I'm on an ever unfolding journey of figuring out who the fuck I am, for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, and that's one thing, like this last year has been so amazing for a variety of reasons, but like we've done together and separately so many different of these healing events and healing modalities, just trying different things. Like I never, ever would have tried an ice bath before. Like that sounds horrible. But this year I just decided I was open to whatever. And every event, everything I tried, they were all different and benefited in different ways, but I learned something from all of them. And I think that's the key, is just that constant being willing to learn and willing to look at yourself.
Yeah, that openness is huge, right? Like contempt prior to investigation is ignorance.
Yes.
Right. Like I don't want to be ignorant, but I do have my preconceived judgments and notions on different things people do, different societal norms and stuff. How the hell would I do that? But like as I grow, I'm able to open up and be, when in Rome, I've tried to just try it. I don't got to subscribe to anything off rip, but even dipping my toe in the water and seeing how it is and then go from there,
Absolutely.
I think that's so huge because I see a lot of people, and I think it's more so with, this could be totally false, but like the older generation, like my parents' age, like the 50s and 60s, like some people are so rooted in their ways that like even bringing up even having conversations about different things is triggering. And it's like, what the fuck? Like you can't even talk about something.
So a lot of that I actually see as like we have to give ourselves permission. And older generations, like some of this stuff, like they weren't even allowed to explore it. They weren't allowed to talk about it. So it's almost like that, well, I didn't have permission to do this. It feels so foreign. And so like it's ripping apart a piece of what they've always believed. Like I had that thought once. So my oldest child came to me one day, they changed their name. And I was heartbroken at first. I was like, but I gave you your birth name. Like, how could you change it? And they're like, yeah, and I'm the one that has to hear it dozens of times every day, and I don't like it. And that was like, oh, like that makes sense. I'm not the one that has to hear the name every day, And then it occurred to me, like, I never had that option. That would have never occurred to me to change my name growing up. Like there was a long time I didn't like my name. And there was a long time, like, I was very like, don't call me Mel. I only go by Melanie. And it was kind of a weird, like, power struggle over how people identified me. But like the idea of changing my name to something I loved never occurred to me. And it's just like normal for this younger generation now. So it's almost like that. Like I think the more people are invested in what they grew up with, the harder it is for them to understand anyone thinking differently.
Yeah, I definitely like making, I've been thinking about this a lot and communicating about like these mindsets or belief systems we have, right? They're almost like rooted structures of neurons in our brain, right? And when we go and a new concept or idea is introduced to someone and it challenges the structured root system, it can be very triggering, right? And it's either like, I love when people test my belief systems, and it does piss me off. I do get annoyed. Like I'm not immune to any of that, but I appreciate it. And I like listening to conflicting beliefs because it does one of two things. It either uproots my belief system, which is absolutely terrifying. And it is, you almost do go through like a grieving process of like, oh, I've been living part of like this subject of my life a lie, and it's painful. Or if it's a well-structured belief system and I hold strong, it makes those roots stronger.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's just so powerful for me. I think I just love saying it because I think it needs to be heard in that way.
Well, and I think sometimes, like, it is painful. Like, I uprooted several belief systems in the last 5 years, and it's a painful grieving process. It can be. And I think for some people, when it starts to feel painful, they assume that's bad and pull back. I was, I mean, a big one for me that I grieved for a long time was leaving the religion I grew up with. Like, I was very, very devout Catholic for 37 years. And then I realized, it was a process and several things happened, but I just realized this is not what I believe anymore. But then it was hard. Like, I felt like a terrible mother. Like, when I moved my kids out of a Catholic school and into the public school, I felt like a failure. And it was very hard for me, even though, like, I believed what I was believing. Like, I felt I was doing the right thing. There was still a huge process for me going through. And then for a while, I felt like, I don't know what to believe. Like, I believe this and now I don't, so I don't know what I believe. And that was hard because then I just felt kind of lost. Like, I've always been spiritually minded, but then when you shift, what does that mean to you? And you don't have an answer yet. It's a hard process.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I found for my spirituality, it's like, I really don't know what I believe, and I'm very open to my spirituality developing and evolving and changing because, yeah, it's like, who the fuck really knows, you know? And I do take bits and pieces of every. I feel like if it's been studied or it's been around for the test of time, there's some validity to it, right? And it's like, what's been muddled down and what's the truth, you know? But I think the more you develop spiritually and do your spiritual practice, that intuition guidance system, you'll have that inner knowing of what's true and what's true for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly believe there could be so many variabilities of truth out there that I could wholeheartedly believe something and it be true, and another person could have contradictory beliefs, but it's also true, you know, and it's not killing you because you believe that. Like,
yeah.
It's really, so like, yeah. So the path, so I like how you said you've always been spiritually minded, you know, you let go of the religious foothold, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's opened you up to, I know just from being in a relationship with you, a lot of different ideas and concepts.
Absolutely. Well, and I think a lot of that, even though my dad was both my parents were very Catholic, but my dad, through 12-step program, also had the mindset of everyone can have their own higher power and it doesn't matter. So even though we were raised Catholic, he was always very, like, that was always part of the conversation. Like, yes, we're Catholic, this is my God, but whatever your higher power is your business, and as long as it works for you. So I always had that teaching also growing up, which I think helped with the transition.
Yeah, just keeping an open mind, a non-judgmental mind of other things, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Yeah. So I don't know. What you said something earlier, and I don't. Maybe I won't. Yeah, go ahead. I'm at a loss for a second.
I don't know.
So
Go ahead.
You said you tried all the different things over
Mm-hmm.
this past 5 years, year, whatever.
Yeah.
Has there been you wanted to go into detail about any of them and like what you said they helped in different, like what things help with what, or like what?
So yeah. So the first thing I really tried with my own healing journey was going to ACA, and I was I actually wasn't open to it at the time. It was just like, I don't know what else to do. And while a big part of me feels like I've in many ways moved beyond needing it, it definitely created a foundation for me just to get into other things. And it was through ACA that I really got into meditation, and meditation has been huge for me. That's been meditation has probably been one of the single biggest influences on my healing journey, because I've been able to apply it to so many other areas of my life. Just learning to be mindful. So it's like, yes, I have my meditation time every day, but I also have learned to be mindful throughout the day, and I can calm my mind throughout the day. And that's a gift that I got from meditation. So that's been very significant. And
how was your journey? I know you were, for a time period, able to facilitate meditation for other people.
mm-hmm.
How, yeah, how was that? I feel like, you learn so much more teaching or facilitating. I don't know if teaching is the right word for that, but I'm just creating a space for other people to grow, like especially in recovery communities. Like meditation is like underlying from every study that every religion or belief is like the foundation. Like like that's a must in all of them. So it's like you being able to find that gift and then share it. I mean, that's what that's what it's all about, right? Like you go, well, what's the saying in ACA? Like you go from hurting to healing to helping.
Yeah.
Right. And so it just shows. It's just beautiful for me to see in my life where I actually transmute a pain to a blessing, right? When I can actually look back and see that transition.
Yeah. The facilitating the meditation groups was huge for me. I just enjoyed it so much. And for me, so it's funny, I was thinking about this on Sunday because of something someone said at M.O.S.H.i. Like everyone can still grow and everyone still benefits from meditation, but I never wanted to like work with people that were already like solid in a meditation practice. For me, I went from like constant mental chaos and constant stress to feeling calm and being able to think clearly. That to me, I wanted to go to the people in chaos and be like, there is an option. Like you've lived like this for so long, like you feel like you don't have options, but there are. Like here is one simple tool that can quiet your mind and just give you a chance to breathe. There's so long in my life, I literally felt like I couldn't breathe. I always had this heaviness in my chest, like I was going to pass out at any time, you know? So when I got through my certification, I went into recovery houses, and I went into women's recovery houses. I always wanted to work with women. I should say always. When I started my healing journey and wanted to do something, I just think there's a lot to be said for co-ed groups. ACA, M.O.S.H.i, it's all the men and women together, and we learn so much from each other, and it's a beautiful relationships. But there's just something to be said for women being able to work together and bond together. And there's just experiences that we can have as women that aren't relatable to men. And it's the same for men. I think men should have, men's groups and those kind of things for them, because there are things that you can talk about and have experiences. And going back to like the cultural stuff and the societal expectations, like those are things you can talk about with each other because you understand. And it's the same for women. So I wanted to go to women who were in chaos, who were, a lot of them were mothers and struggling to be mothers or trying to get their kids back and trying to get their lives together. And that's who I wanted to help. And it was amazing. And I learned so much from them. And it was funny. So my very first meditation group, like I said, I don't consider it classes. I wasn't teaching. I was facilitating. But I loved mindfulness meditation and I love silent meditation. So, and I was all excited. So I went in, I'm going to teach them this amazing thing that I love and I do every day. And we did a 15-minute silent meditation. And when it was over, I gave the women a chance to share. And the first woman who shared told me that was a horrific experience and she does not want to do this ever again. And then everyone started agreeing and just saying, like, sitting in silence, like with nothing but their thoughts. Like, first of all, they weren't ready to get their thoughts out of their head. They weren't at a point they could clear their mind. The house I was at, they were all sober less than 30 days. So this was not they were not at this level yet. And that made me realize I need to meet them where they're at better. I was so excited about what I loved that I didn't consider where they were at. So every week I kind of left it up to them. We focused on visualization because then I was talking through the whole thing and they had something to focus their mind on. But I let them choose kind of the topics. What do you want to meditate on? One group, for a while, we focused on just the chakras. And other groups, they wanted, I would go through these safe place meditations, where how to put yourself into a safe place when you're feeling like you're losing it. We focused on how to stop panic attacks for a while, but I let the women kind of lead me on what they needed in their life. And that was a big learning lesson for me in how to meet people where they're at. Because sometimes, I get excited about stuff very easily. So sometimes I let my excitement kind of overload what does the other person really need or want in this situation.
Well, that's a beautiful awareness to gain when you're not just, like you're able to meet the people where they're at or see what they need, because that's what a role of a real healer is, I think, is being able to identify where the person's struggling, where they're at, and give them, the information. You don't want to overload them, You said, I love how you said, like, I 100% agree that co-ed groups are great, and then like iron sharpens iron, right? Like women with women, men with men, and certain things, and it's super powerful. But I know you've talked about this before a couple different times, but would you like to touch on your breakthrough and your mindset of once you left your marriage, how you were keeping yourself safe by not, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to, like you almost put up a wall for men, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But in your mind, it was you were executing excellent boundaries,
Yes.
right? And I think that's a beautiful way that you explain that, and you're able to. I think a lot of people, like I'm like that with certain people still, like I'm not. I'm just like, thou shalt not pass, like, and that's it. And I'm cool and I'm protected, but really am I being loving, compassionate, and kind, Like, of course, there's certain people that bring negativity around, right? That I should set firm boundaries with, But am I pushing them away, or am I just like kindly like letting them pass, right?
Yeah. So yeah, for a long time I had no boundaries. People just walked all over me, and I let it. And I would it's not like I liked it, but again, I was in this mindset where I just didn't have choices, or I didn't believe I had choices. And then through ACA and some other 12-step programs I got involved with, I learned about boundaries and how to set them and how to enforce them. And that rang loud and clear for me. This is what I need in my life. I need boundaries. So I set up all of these boundaries and no one got through. And I thought I was doing great and I was healed and healthy and just the queen of boundaries. And that's what was the problem in my life, is that I didn't have these before. And then I realized it was really, truly not until we started dating and that I realized how much I was protecting myself. Because there was still... I just thought, I thought my boundaries was protecting my peace. And then there was different times where you pushed boundaries in a loving way, but you were pushing boundaries and I was getting super triggered. And then I was like, what's wrong with me? And I'm better than this. And I shouldn't be having these huge emotional reactions because I thought I was healed past all of this stuff. And I couldn't, it took me a hot minute to realize I wasn't protecting my peace. I was protecting this very hurt version of myself. This hurt little girl was just still inside of me, still hurt, but I had wrapped her in a bubble and kept her safe there, but she was still there. And it wasn't until really I started letting that out. And one of the many things I love about you is you have created this safe space for me to get emotional and be triggered. And you give me time to work through where that's coming from. You don't react with anger when I'm freaking out about something that doesn't seem to make sense to you, but it makes sense in my head and you're trying to understand. So yeah, it took a lot, but yes, I realized I had to feel the pain to heal it. You can't, kind of going back to what I was saying before about you have to recognize what happened to you and understand how it affects you in order to move forward. Because if you're just going to block it out and be like, well, yeah, I had a rough childhood, but the past is the past. There's no point in thinking about it or talking about it, whatever. Well, that's great, except you have all these wounds inside you that are still bleeding and you're just sitting there letting them bleed. thinking it's okay. It's the whole like putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm. Like, you're not fixing the problem. So yes, by keeping all of my boundaries, all I was doing was protecting all of the hurt that was inside of me. So it's been, yeah, I mean, it's been a huge growing year between that and, like I said, the healing things we've done and just like taking the time to learn about myself has been amazing. And like, I still have wounds, like I still get triggered by stuff, but I recognize it a lot faster. I used to not recognize the fact I was being triggered. I used to truly think whatever was happening right here was the problem. I didn't take the time to think, like, where is this really coming from? You know? I mean, just like this last week or so, we've had a lot of heavy conversations. You have a lot going on in your life right now, and you haven't had the time or the space to give me attention in different areas that I was asking for. So instead of me being able to step back and be like, well, let's just talk, and you have a lot going on in your life, it triggered this, well, it's because I'm not good enough. Well, I need to do something else to win his attention. And that goes back to old thinking and old wounds that have nothing to do with you, but this is how they're coming out because I'm with you now. So, and it wasn't even something like you weren't even intentionally trying to trigger me. Like, sometimes you kind of poke to get things out when you see it and you know it needs to come out. But you were just focused on what you were trying to focus on, and I was focusing on my own pain. So it's just it's always a process.
It's always a process. Thanks for enjoying my focus. I'm curious, you said like when you first started your meditation that like you really wanted to help the people who need it the most. Like, do you found that as you're growing, like, I know that's super important and there needs to be like healers all along the steps for everyone. Do you think as the more that you heal, the more you find more healed people to work with, or not necessarily work with, but did that just come into your reality that you help?
Absolutely. Like, I think my desire is still helping people who are coming out of the chaos. But that being said, I'm around a lot more people who are farther on their journey and more like more on the path I'm on, or even ahead of the path of me, that I feel it's a symbiotic relationship with everyone. Like, I absolutely believe that I'm helping people in all areas of my life. And they're helping me. And that's been huge. And that's been something, it's funny to me to think about like how little the smallest things people say, like, and they don't even realize how much they helped you, you know? And that's what, with writing, with these thank you letters I started writing, that's what it started with, is like someone said something in a meeting that really impacted me, but then it was like the meeting went on and afterwards, you know, you get food to go on, and I never like addressed it with that person. Like, hey, you said XYZ and that helped me tremendously. So then I was thinking, like, this person's going throughout their day not realizing how much they're helping other people by just being themselves. They're just on their own healing journey and sharing it out loud, and it's helping other people. And that's a big thing I recognize. I always wanted to keep things to myself. Like, I was always very embarrassed, and I was very, I mean, not like, I don't know. Like, I don't want to say it was like I was afraid of what would people think, because it was more about what I thought, you know, that I was giving people judgment to put on me in my own head, you know? But it's been a hard lesson for me to realize just by healing out loud, you're helping other people.
Absolutely.
And you're helping yourself.
I know it's been a big journey for you, like finding your voice. There's also something interesting that I just thought, like, because you're a writer as well, but as I think you've mentioned to me in this relationship, I've pointed out a lot about how important language is and how we speak and how we word things, which just clicked. I'm like, well, you're a writer. You should already more like, I'm not a writer. I barely pick up a pen, which I'm going to more, but you know, it's so impactful, the language that we use, the way we word things. You can feel people's real intentions behind it, or their doubt, or you know, how confident they are in something. And it's and I love pointing that out to you, and you know, and I definitely go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think an interesting difference between us and why like it does seem more obvious and came more natural. I don't want to say came natural to you. I guess you've had more practice than me. Is for me as a writer, I was never writing personally. I wasn't writing my own thoughts and feelings. I was contracted to write other people's thoughts and feelings. So it was easy for me to explain them. You know, I spent hours interviewing with people to write books on their behalf. So that was easy for me. But like my own writing was so personal, like still most people have never seen it because it's like too personal. Like I'm like, you know, it's like I have several published books that were contracted books. So I almost feel like if someone read one of these books and absolutely hated it, like I wouldn't take it personal. It wasn't my thoughts or ideas. I just wrote it for someone else. So I don't care what you think. Right. But if I publish a book of all my thoughts and feelings and you're like, hey, cool, I hate it, then I feel like you hate me because that's me in that book. That's a piece of me and you hate it. So that's what's very hard is like, as far as my writing and my language, like it was never personal. It was always from the observer.
There's that saying that you're always going to be a villain in someone's story. You know, can't make everybody happy.
Yeah.
Maybe we could do a podcast where you interview me.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. There's yeah. You are. I know. That's interesting you say that because I feel like I've had friends tell me that too. Like they own businesses and different things, and they can talk in front of a crowd about their specialty or whatever. But when it becomes about them, it's like no, right?
100%, yeah.
And that's super interesting because I'm the opposite. Like so I didn't always have my voice either. You know, I do want to mention I have had practice. You know, but it's something I was thinking about earlier too. Like you talked about, like you didn't go on your healing journey until you basically hit your rock bottom, right? Like you fought it. Like being a parent, it's super hard to navigate that, right? Because like I believe like every human needs to go through that trial to break that, you know, like the caterpillar and the metamorphosis cocoon theory, you know, like if you break that cocoon for the caterpillar, it will not have enough strength to fly as a butterfly, right? You cannot help it out. It needs to work its muscles up. And that's the same for learning lessons for humans, right? And it's like, how the fuck loving someone so much and seeing them suffer, you know, you just want to, you know, help them a little bit. But like, it's such a fine line of when that's detrimental and when you're being like a good guiding force, I guess.
And for me, and I don't know, but for me, I feel like everything, like I should have helped, or everything was like, not that everything was my fault, but there was always that underlining guilt for me. Like I can't fix my kids' problems, but I should be able to. Like it was very hard for me to accept the fact that they all have their own path and they have to figure things out too. And I figured them out and I'm better for it, and they have to figure it out. I can't give them the answers.
So that is the answer, is being able to figure out your own stuff and showing it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I did not have a good model of someone going through trials and errors and figuring it out. It was going through trials and errors and masking it with drugs and alcohol instead, right? And that's how I dealt with my turmoils for a long time, and still do to an extent as I'm hitting my next you know. But it's it's like I had a mishap a couple years ago of a little back on opiates, and I came out of it pretty quick. And I was just surprised when I went and visited my sisters how they told me they were proud of me, you know. And I went, well, I fucked up. What do you mean, you know? Like you just bounce back, like, you know, like you don't let it hold you down, you know. And that's you know, we all fall and we all have our scrapes and bumps, and it's like, you know.
I had a really hard time. So I have a good relationship with my kids. And I'm grateful that they've been understanding and forgiving throughout my process. Because it's a weird balance trying to heal while trying to parent. Like for a long time, all I did was this Friday night ACA meeting. So I was only gone for 2 hours one night a week. Yet I had all this guilt of I should be home with my kids because I didn't do things for myself, you know? So I should be home with my kids and I'm doing this and I don't even know if it's helping and I don't feel any better and because it takes time. And so I had guilt just taking 2 hours a week to myself to go do this thing, you know? And it's crazy looking back, like the year after my husband and I separated, like I was not okay. And now like my kids jokingly refer to it as mom's year of depression and all the crazy stuff I did that year because I was like not okay, but kept trying to prove I was okay. So I would do these like elaborate things with them to try to let's be happy. And like clearly we're not happy, but I just didn't know what to do. So I was like bouncing back between I literally don't want to get out of bed. I cannot be a parent too. I have to not only be a parent, but be a fun, excited, loving parent. And I just can't. I don't have the capacity for this right now. But it's not fair, you know, to 10 and 11-year-olds to be like, I just can't be a parent this year.
Yeah, that you showed them that you can overcome that.
Absolutely, yeah.
I totally understand that guilt factor. It wasn't until I have the shared parenting deal with my kid's mother that I was at first I had no idea what to do with myself when my kids weren't around. Like it's like, you know, and but all the times when we were in the same household and I would go out and do things, there always was that voice in the back of my head that like, oh, I should be at home playing with the kids, or you know. But it's so important and I think that's even another point. Like I'm teaching my kids, like, go out and do stuff for yourself. You know, you don't have to totally be engulfed and wrapped up in taking care of the family unit. You know, there's a time and a place for that, absolutely. But there's also like, go explore the world, go have fun. If you're interested in something, go try it. You know, and I really like how you broke that paradigm by your 40 by 40 list, which is just a super fun exercise and something that like, yeah, like every person should go explore their passions and try shit they don't even know if they like, you know?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what it came out of. Like that, the night I made my 40 by 40 list it was not a good night at all. I was an absolute mess. It was right around the 1 year mark from when my husband and I had split. It was early February. And the kids were with him. And I was still like, I mean, I was a stay-at-home mom for years. So like the idea of not having my kids every night was just, I mean, even a year later, I was struggling to know what to do with myself. I didn't have friends really. I mean, I had some ACA friends that I saw on Friday nights, but it wasn't like I hung out with people. I didn't have a lot of, I really didn't have any women friends to bounce off of or stuff like that. I didn't have hobbies. Like I didn't know what I liked, nothing. When my kids weren't there, I just like sat there and was sad. So that night I started cleaning. And I found these notebooks from high school and college. And I used to always keep bucket lists. I always wanted to travel the world and try everything and do everything. And I used to be that person. And then I stopped. And I found these lists of stuff I wanted to do. And I'm reading them. And I'm like, I've done nothing. Like, and then I had this, like, I've done nothing with my life. Like, what am I doing? You know, never mind the whole, I had 3 kids, but, yeah. So I made, it was a year, 8 months and 4 days from that day to my 40th birthday. And I made the list of 40 things. And then that was like my mission is I'm going to accomplish 40 things in the next year and 8 months. And I did, and I had fun. And it was that was really like, I would recommend stuff like that for anyone. Like it was such a crazy experience because some things I hated. Like some things I was like, I don't even know why that was on my list. That was not a fun experience whatsoever. The one I always joke about is I took a pole dancing class as part of my 40 by 40. Like that's painful. You have to be athletic. Like that's actually not like as easy as it looks at all. And I left with bruises. So then it was like, why did I want to try that? So it's just, but then there was other stuff. Like I got my first tattoo, absolutely loved it. Now I have 12. Like it's just things. I rode a motorcycle for the first time. Haven't ridden one since, but I got it out of my system of having never ridden a motorcycle.
I think that it's just that like you talk about identity as being a mother. You know what I mean? Like people get so wrapped up in the things they do, and that becomes their identity. and everything's so subject to change, you know,
Yeah.
that I think it's really important to cultivate who you are as a person as your identity rather than, you know, the things that you provide or do in the world.
Absolutely. That's one thing like I've always been aware of, which is weird because on one hand, I'm about to say I've always been aware of this, yet I didn't practice it. But I remember back in college, how many of my friends who were either an only child or the youngest, and once they left for college, their parents got divorced because all they were together was parents. And once their children left, they had nothing in common anymore. They didn't know each other. They didn't like each other, whatever it was. And I think about that a lot now. Like my oldest is leaving for college. The twins are only 2 years behind. Like in a very short window, I will not have children in my home, you know? So then what am I going to do? Like I can't, I remember having this conversation with someone right when I started my healing journey. Very similar. Like I felt like all I am is a mother. Like I'm doing this because I need to be a better mother. And someone asked me, what about when your kids are gone? I'm like, then I have nothing. Like I would have nothing if I lost my kids. If they all moved away and decided like, yeah, it was a fun 18 years, like I'm out, I would have nothing. Then now, now that's not the case, but, and I don't see them just walking away. But at the time that was like a serious fear of mine. Like without my kids, I'm nothing.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that because it's like I didn't have much motivation to accomplish a lot of things before I had children, you know, and now they're, you know, they're my biggest fans as well as my biggest motivators, you know, and they don't even know it, you know, they know they're my biggest fans for sure. But yeah, and it's like, but through that process, I'm able to grow and learn about myself and become more ambitious and more like, I'm just so excited, and it's so cool to see you do things with your kids because, you know, my kids are so small, but like, man, the different things we can go and do and accomplish and just try out together. It just seems so fun. Like I think once you have children, like you never know what's going to come around the corner, and that's so exciting for me because I lived a long time in my life of these repetitive patterns that, oh, this is what life is, you know. And once I had kids, I'm like, oh, you know, God knows what the fuck will happen. Super exciting being a parent, and I do identify as a father, and it does bring me great joy. But I did these weird thought experiments early when my kids were like what if Chrissy left with the kids and they all died in the car, right? You know, like what would I do then? And I was just like play around with those thoughts, not being emotionally attached to it, but to try to disengage because I was aware of that identity thing because I see it, and maybe I've read about it or I'm not sure where it came from, but it's super.
See, I would have those thoughts back in the day, and it would like I'd have instant panic attacks, like instant, like I cannot lose my family feelings.
Yeah, well, I would 100% say I would go to the end of the world to make sure that nothing ever happened to them. But
just like my oldest, like it's hard. It's a weird balance because like so my oldest was offered a full ride scholarship to a community college. And she felt like, well, this is the financially responsible thing to do instead of possibly end up with loans and go away to college. And I really encouraged her. I really pushed her to go away to college. And like, she's so responsible and so takes on the weight of the world. I'm like, you need to go experience life. You need to get away from your parents and your siblings and small town, and you need to go do stuff. You need to travel. And she is. So now she's in this fall, she's going away to college, and she's already planning to study abroad next spring and next summer. So I encouraged it. I want this for her. But now that it's right around the corner, I'm like, oh God, my baby's leaving.
I think it's so natural though. You know?
I know. But it's definitely, it's hard.
It'll be so exciting when she comes back and you guys are drinking your tea talking about cool adventures to make it all worth it.
I know. I remember telling someone, I was at one of my other jobs, they were talking about like, what are scams that you don't realize are scams? And they were talking about all sorts of crazy stuff. And I'm like, parenting. And they all looked at me like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you pour everything you have, all of your love and energy and time and money, you pour everything into another human being, knowing they're going to up and leave you. Like, it's a scam.
They say if you do a good job, your adult children will want to hang out with you.
Yes. I'm not too worried.
We'll see in my case. Yeah. I don't know. It's very fun. This relationship has been one for me of learning how to be loved. I did not know how much, well, my upbringing and my own mindset and beliefs about myself rejected all the blessings that can come into my life, you know. And I think with your school training and you being you, you have like I said earlier, a wonderful ability to like basically spoon feed me the right love and information and encouragement as it's needed, because I can't, you know, I can't eat the whole plate at once, and I'll reject it still, you know. But like as this past year and some months have transpired, it's I'm way more open and able to receive than ever, and it's you know, it's always like more will be revealed, you know, like I had no idea, like no idea. And then these beautiful souls come into my life and show me, shine light on the darkness, so to speak, you know. And I just will forever be grateful for what has transpired so far between us. And even prior to being in an intimate relationship with you, it's just like, we definitely have created a safe space for each other, you know, just being genuinely. I remember like early on, you kept it like, maybe you're asking me like what I liked about you or something, but I just kept telling you I want to learn about you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that's so important in relationships. Like, I don't want you to fit no role. I don't want anything specific from you. You know, I just want you to flourish and share some of that experience with me, you know. And I think that's super important because in the past I yeah, tried to put people in boxes or get them to fulfill roles that I thought they should be in, you know. And it just hinders people and implodes on whether it be friend relationships or intimate relationships or anything, you know. It's just like creating that space to let someone be goofy or whatever, just have fun and be themselves, because that's where I believe, you know, I say a lot that we're all equal parts of the whole, you know. You can call it the Holy Spirit or whatever, but we're all part of God, right? And like I I also say like, what's that saying? I feel like I wouldn't be able to understand my higher power, and if I could, it wouldn't be much of a higher power, right?
Yes.
So if I'm trying to put someone in a box, I'm limiting their potential, the God potential within them to shine, you know. And I love watching you shine, and sometimes it's too bright for me.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Like, I appreciate everything you just said. I love that. I appreciate, like, one of the biggest things for me has been like I have big emotions and I get very excited easily, and I just like, I don't know, I feel like I've always seen it as like I don't know, detriment's not the right word, but like not a benefit of me. Like it was like my emotions were too big. I got too excited about things. I would come up with these random ass ideas and adventures that I thought were amazing. And then when I would share them with people, they would just like give me this look like, what is wrong with you? So I always felt like I had to wheel it back just for people to be around me because I was too much. And it's that weird, like, it's so weird to feel like not enough and too much all at the same time. But I did all the time. Like I'm not enough to be loved and I'm too much at the same time and people don't want to be around me. And that's something that's, it's crazy because it's like you created this space. And I know sometimes I'm a little too much for you, but like in moments, I get very excited and very outgoing sometimes, but you've made it perfectly okay for me to be that way. And I feel like it took some time and convincing for you to be like, no, like I want you to be just you. Like I want you to be as absolutely authentic as you're going to become ever. And that felt very new and very, I did not trust it for a long time. Like, okay, you're saying that, but then if I'm really me, then you're going to be like, okay, wheel it back. And that's how I felt for a long time. But it's crazy because now like I've come so much more into myself and I feel more myself than I ever have before. And now like I have all these friends and community and other people who want to do stuff. And like I love like my random road trip. Like I just love roadside attractions and the weirdest random museums. And I took my kids on a road trip last summer, and I'm taking them on a road trip this summer. And every time I tell people about these trips, they're just like, oh, that like, it's really weird. Like they think it's weird that this is the stuff I want to go see. But now I have these friends that now I'm going on 2 road trips because Maggie's like perfect. And she had her own list of roadside attractions that she wants to see. And it's like, the more I let myself just be me, the more people and the more love and the more acceptance I have than when I was trying to be what I thought people wanted me to be.
It's like, go where you're celebrated, right?
Yes.
And I want to say that I don't think that you're too much for me sometimes. I think that I am not open enough sometimes.
We'll go with that.
Well, because if you're being authentically you, it's never too much, never tone down, Yeah. But being in a relationship it is that compromise and learning about each other. But like I said, you got me dialed in pretty well, I think. And it's just helped me tremendously evolve and be comfortable enough to even so encouraging for me to start this podcast. It's even something I wanted to do for a long time. But like I said, there's that time frame of thought to manifestation, and when you're with someone who's encouraging and and it's cool. It was really cool for me to see if I would stumble a little bit, it wouldn't be held against me. It was your hand was there to help me back up, and that's something I've never had in a intimate relationship. It's just that's huge. Yeah, go where you're celebrated. That's what keeps coming to my mind. And it's never settle, right? Yeah. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
I think I'm good.
Cool. Thank you so much for doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you.
So me and Melanie plan to do definitely more content together. Not exactly P.S. what's next episodes, but I just think through our relationship and the things that we have struggled with and overcome and the struggles yet to come and all that, our communication is so on point. I feel like we just talk about everything. If something's bothering us, that's another thing. I used to it's very hard. It's not as hard anymore. It was very hard for me to share things I know would hurt your feelings. Like you said, you have big emotions, right? So it's it was like a weird interaction where I would want to speak my truth, but I would see you get very taken back by it. And then I feel like I'm being an asshole. I'm hurting you. I'm causing unnecessary turmoil, right? And but through our communications, it's helped us grow and level up, and we don't go through that same bullshit anymore. It's just new bullshit.
Yeah.
But yeah. But if you don't do that, we'll cycle through the same bullshit, And so I just think and with your my unorganizedness and your organizedness, we'll be able to collaborate and just speak our truth, and I'm sure it will resonate with people for sure. So that'll be coming whenever. Naomi said, "I love you, mommy." Kate said, "Emoji." So is that cool that your child is watching you do that? Does that make it? So it's interesting doing lives, right? I remember when I first started doing lives, and I would see people pop on. Certain people didn't matter, and then other people I would see pop on. And then I get this it fucked me up really. And
so that's why I'm not wearing my glasses.
Very cool.
Because I didn't want to be be focused or distracted by who came on or off.
There you go.
Because I can't see that far away.
Kate said, "Love you guys." Love you, Kate. Cool, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. And have a blessed day.